Welcome to Have a Bible Question Live, where you'll receive a Bible answer to your Bible question. And now, let's study the Bible.
When you go throughout the book of Judges, you ever notice how they desired a king to be like the other nations? And so they started pushing forward that they wanted to be like other people. Well, what did you actually have them doing? They were deciding for themselves what they needed, to the point that God finally relented, knowing it wasn't going to work out. But God relented and he gave them a king to be like everybody else. So they agreed upon this, and God finally just yielded to them. It's kind of like, you ever think about parents with children doing that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why we think just because we can get a majority of people to agree that they want something, that means it's what's best. And I think that's a problem. And I don't want to go into politics too much, but if all of a sudden we can get everybody to vote that something's okay, does that make it okay? Think about gambling, for instance, lottery. Have you ever noticed how now, well, if we can put it before a vote and everybody says it's okay, then somehow now it's going to be morally accepted in society. We cannot vote things into acceptance. It doesn't make it right. And I think we ought to be careful about that. Anyway.
Yeah, Acts chapter 5, verse 29.
That's right.
We ought to obey God rather than men. That was Peter's point whenever they were trying to tell him what they should do according to their beliefs, their society, and it was superseding the truth of God, and those first century brethren refused. And I think we have an obligation to do that as well. So just because there may be a law in the nation doesn't mean that it's right, doesn't mean that a Christian should adhere to it.
Mike puts the example of abortion.
Be careful with that, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Mike puts the example of abortion on here. You know, just because it's legal to be able to go get it doesn't make it right. That's sinful. It's wrong all day long.
Right.
And you know, it's very interesting, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because we're talking about abortion. We've mentioned on the program that, and we're not trying to talk politics here. We're talking about realities. Okay. Typically speaking, the Republican Party has stood against abortion, while the Democrats have tried to advocate for abortion. Cardinals within the Catholic Church, again, we don't advocate for the Catholic Church either. Cardinals within the Catholic Church in the United States are actually having these meetings, and they're pushing for these bishops are pushing to deny certain Democrat political leaders that are pushing for abortion. They want to deny them communion. It was interesting. I was reading a news article today, guys, that the Catholic Church, a cardinal from overseas with the Vatican, has actually sent a letter to them telling them, be careful. Now get this, warning them about being careful about taking that too far. Now, can you believe that? Because as far as abortion and the advocacy of life, while the Catholic Church is wrong on so many things, I got to give them this. They have always stood against that. They have always stood on the side of right. Broke clock is right twice a day, as the old saying goes. They've always, but notice now, you know, you have these people that are wanting to stand up and say, no, we need to do something. And then their leaders are telling them, well, you might need to be careful about what you say there. You know, don't take that too far. And what's happening is it's becoming more and more accepted. I can't believe, if you told me 10 years ago that would have happened, I would have called you a liar. Go ahead, Troy.
Well, I just saw some studies and was watching some videos. This young man who's doing a lot of studies, he's denominational himself, but he's been observing and studying the trends that have happened in the last 20 years, the decline of evangelical churches. And he's looked at all the different ones, and he has noticed that there's some who decline faster or more than others. And he basically determined or came to the conclusion that the main reason was what he called liberalism. And then he went on to define that liberalism as things like accepting homosexuality within the church in all the different forms, whether it be in the clergy, what they call clergy and things like that, to accepting abortion, any of those stances, those worldly stances, he was labeling that as liberalism, which I think is a good label. And that was what caused the decline of membership of those churches faster than any else. There's other churches that he talked about that have toed the line, if you will, stood firm, like the Catholic Church you're just talking about in those particular things, and they have not experienced the decline in membership as those others had. I found that absolutely fascinating.
Well, it's interesting. The Methodist Church is making news right now about a potential split, because what they're doing is that certain ones within that religion are saying homosexuality is accepted and okay, while there are still others that say no, it's not. Well, the difficulty that I see, I have a good friend of mine who is of that religion, and as we've talked in the past, they're choosing to draw that line of God's righteousness where he drew it over the sin of homosexuality, but there's still other sins where God has drawn the line that they have not drawn. And so it's like, well, and this goes back to Mike saying, where does morality come from? It's got to come from God and what he has revealed to us of what is right versus what is wrong. And we have to respect it, and you can't pick and choose. Right. You have to respect it in its entirety. And it's unfortunate it's taking only certain sins in order to get some people to step up. But then, dude, look at what today is just, we don't even blink an eye at. I mean, honestly, even take dress as far as what's considered modesty. Man, you can't even go to the store anymore for not, the stuff that whenever I was a child, they were worried about being immodest. That was nothing compared to what you see when you go to Walmart today.
Yeah.
You ever look online at some of those pictures of what people wear to Walmart?
It's why I don't go to Walmart anymore.
I told you about the last time I went to the Milton Walmart, the guy walking around eating his chicken while he was shopping.
There's many things in there I don't want to see.
He had the rotisserie chicken open up in the cart, and he had his fingers all down in there just a walking around.